Thank you so much for clicking on this video today. Today, I have a bedtime story ASMR planned for you. So please, sit back, close your eyes, and relax while I tell you the story of Frizzy the rabbit. Once upon a time, in the great green rolling hills, there lived a family of rabbits. And in that family was a young rabbit named Frizzy. Now Frizzy was called Frizzy because, well, his hair was always quite frizzy. He tried everything he could. He would wet his hair, he'd bathe, he'd use some sap products, but no matter what he did, his hair was always so darn frizzy. And growing up, this gave Frizzy quite a hard time. The other rabbits in his class, well, they picked on Frizzy. They would say stupid things like, "Hey Frizzy, did you just wake up or something?" Or, "Wow, you get struck by lightning today." And these things, over time, they really got to Frizzy and hurt him. It made him feel that he didn't belong in his own community. It made him not want to talk to others anymore out of fear that they'd make fun of him too. Lots of time has passed since then. Frizzy, now a young adult rabbit, he was done with school and he didn't have to see the people who used to pick on him anymore. But still, those insecurities remained. Frizzy was still Frizzy. Every now and again, someone would point that out to him. On this particular day, Frizzy awoke bright and early like he always did. He got dressed, ate some food in the morning, tried to be quiet so that he wouldn't wake up his parents or siblings. Just as he was about to leave the day to head to work, some members of his family began to wake up too, so he said hello and goodbye to them real quick because he had to be on his way. Frizzy had a very important job in the community of rabbits. Frizzy was the community lookout. And what that meant was, every day, Frizzy would go out on his own, up to a high point, scout for his community. He'd look for places where there might be food or kept an eye out for any threats or dangers there might be. It was a very important job, one that Frizzy was very happy to volunteer for. Although the job was very important and very well respected, nobody else in the community seemingly wanted it. That's because, well, it was quite a lonely job. The lookout would go all by themselves out and around and scout for things. And, well, most people, they wanted to be with their friends or their loved ones. They didn't want to spend all day by themselves. Frizzy didn't mind though, and so Frizzy volunteered. And Frizzy was a spectacular lookout. He took his job very seriously, and he was very passionate about his work because he knew just how important he was to his community. So, Frizzy left his home. He hopped along the road, said good morning to a few rabbits, going about their day, also getting ready for work. One of them was an old schoolmate of his, and like usual, he said, Frizzy, woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, huh? And his friends laughed, and Frizzy was used to it by now, so he just carried on with his day. But it really hurt him. He made fun of for something out of his control like that. He didn't really understand why they picked on him like this, you know? Everybody had their little quirks. Susie had 1 ear longer than the other. John had extra large feet, but nobody seemed to remind them of the fact every day like they did to Frizzy. Oh well, some things he just would never understand. He made his way up to the lookout point where he always started his day from. It was a very high point that could allow him to see in all directions. From the forest to the west, to the grassy fields of the north, and the rolling hills of the south and the east, where the rabbits come from. He made it up to the point. It was a gorgeous, gorgeous morning day. There was still some fog around, and the ground was dewy and wet. And he scanned the area, looking for something that might interest the community. All of a sudden, he noticed something unnatural coming from the west, coming from the forest. He looked and he focused his eyes on what it was, what the disturbance was, and you could see the black tendrils of smoke rising into the sky. Frizzy gasped. That wasn't good. A fire. That meant only one of two things, and both of them were bad. Either one, there was a group of humans out there having a campfire. Humans were not to be taken lightly. Every rabbit has heard the horror stories of what goes on at a human campfire. Ridiculous tales of animals getting put over a fire and slowly roasted. Most rabbits dismissed those stories. They were just something you told the young rabbits to make sure that they stayed away from humans. It didn't seem likely that humans would do that. I mean, why on earth would they want to torture some random rabbits? Rabbits had never done anything to them. But regardless, the humans were definitely not to be played with. The second option, Frizzy didn't know which would be worse, was that there was a wildfire beginning in the forest. Either way, Frizzy would have to warn his community about this danger. But just before Frizzy went to run back to his family and his community, he stopped for a moment and said, wait, if I'm gonna tell everybody that there's an urgent issue, I better at least know for sure what it is exactly. Is it humans? Is it a wildfire? I need to know for sure. So Frizzy decided to go towards the direction of the smoke. He had to be careful, of course, not to make himself too visible to any predators or anything like that. So quickly but safely, he made his way to the west. And after some time of travel, he finally made it close enough to see just what was going on. And his worst nightmare came true. Not only were there humans there, lots of them, but there was also a wildfire that was starting to get out of control. The humans were frantic, running extinguish the flames, but the fire kept on spreading and spreading. Wow, Frizzy thought, this is bad. If this fire kept spreading, it could wipe out the whole area, their homes, everything. So abandoning all caution, Frizzy took out at a full sprint back home. He ran and he ran, and once he got there, he was exhausted and so out of breath, and everybody surrounded him because it was quite the scene of him running back like that. "What is it, Frizzy? What's going on?" one of them asked. And in between breaths, Frizzy managed to tell them about the fire and the large group of humans that was in the area, and that they needed to evacuate everybody immediately because the fire might spread in this direction. Thankfully, everybody listened. They saw the urgency in Frizzy's voice, and they knew just how seriously Frizzy took his position. And so, everybody went to work quickly, grabbing the things they needed, food, supplies, the children, and they evacuated the community. They walked in the east, in the opposite direction of the fire, all together as one. And once they felt that they made it a safe distance away, they stopped, and they looked out towards the west, and they could see that that fire had grown and grown and grown, just as Frizzy had warned, and it was now spreading right to their very homes. All the rabbits were silent. There was nothing they could do but watch as the fire crept closer and closer and closer to their homes. A few hours passed. The rabbits just stood, watching the fire develop. It was hard to tell from this distance where exactly it had gotten to, but it seemed as though the fire had gotten straight through their community, burning what took years and years and generations to build. Despite the somber mood, many still approached Frizzy and thanked him for warning them just in time and for saving the lives of everybody in the community. They treated him like a hero, but Frizzy didn't feel like much of a hero, especially after watching, or likely watching, his childhood home burn down. The fire eventually calmed down a bit, but it was still far too hot to return home. And so the rabbits camped there for the night and decided to make their way back the next morning. Not many of them got much sleep that night. But when the sun next arose, they gathered themselves and returned back to their homes to see the extent of the damage that was done. It was another quiet, tense walk. And as they approached, they realized with glee that the fire had left most of the area unscathed. They were so fortunate, so lucky that the fire didn't destroy everything, just some areas on the outer edges of the community. But most everybody was relieved, and they hugged each other and just so happy to know that the place where they had spent their lives and where their parents had spent their lives was still here. The rabbits hugged one another and they kissed and they danced and they cried tears of joy. Frizzy was the recipient of a number of hugs and kisses that day. He smiled, not only at the love that he was receiving, but also at the fact that his home and his family's home was still standing. From that day forth, Frizzy was never made fun of ever again. And while Frizzy was quite happy at that fact, he still bore a bit of resentment to those in the community. It shouldn't have taken him to warn them about upcoming danger or to be a hero for them to stop making fun of him, but oh well, he would take the victory while he could get it. And so Frizzy and the community of rabbits lived the rest of their days happily ever after. The end. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in today. I really enjoy telling bedtime stories. It's really fun to just come up with them on the fly. This story is one that I've told before to some of my loved ones, so some parts I already knew what to say, other parts were more ad-libbed. I hope you couldn't tell. Anyways, I'm hoping to start posting more consistently on the channel now. And so, if you liked content like this, or you want to stick around some more and know when my next video is, please feel free to subscribe or leave a like and a comment. It would really mean a lot to me. Anyways, thank you so much for listening.